we are asked to renew our minds regularly, because that is where growth comes from. That's where maturity comes from. That is where inspiration and joy comes from, is by renewing your mind and bringing it to new ideas and new perspectives, by opening it up, allowing dopamine and endorphins and oxytocin to come in so that your body goes into rest and recovery, so that your mind can actually work and function as it's supposed to. All right, so what we're going to do for the Train Your Mind is I have a little book here called 30 Days to Victory Through Forgiveness. It's by Tony Evans. So we're going to read the first day's, session, entry. And then Steve and I are just going to kind of talk about it, and we'd be interested to see what your thoughts are, if you have anything to add. So I'm going to read it here. It's called Results of Unforgiveness. The story is told about two monks who were traveling together and had to cross a river. An elderly, heavy-set woman was seated at the bank of the river, waiting for someone to help her across. The river was wide, so the monks decided to take turns carrying the woman across. One monk hoisted her onto his back and carried her halfway, and the other monk carried her the rest of the way. The woman thanked them for their generous help, and they bid her farewell. As the monks continued their walk, the first monk began to complain of pain in his back. The second monk assured him that it was nothing. But before long, the first monk began to complain again and had to stop and rest. The second monk said, "Why are we stopping?" The first monk said, "It's my back. It hurts from carrying that woman, doesn't yours?" "No," said the second monk. "I set her down 2 miles ago." The first monk was still weighed down by the woman, even though she was long gone. He was still feeling the effects of having her on his back. By continuing to think about what he had to carry, he was unable to continue on in his way and reach his destination. Unforgiveness sits like a burden on your back. Even though the offense may be long gone, it can sometimes weigh you down, keeping you from your destination. You can become immobilized by being caught up in the pain of the past. Yesterday's burdens can weigh you down today and prevent you from reaching a brighter tomorrow. I'm sure this comes as no surprise. Painful experiences in your past can easily burden your heart, your mind, your soul, and your body today. These hurts could be from your distant childhood or from last week. Having counseled hundreds of people, I've seen a repeated pattern of pain cropping up from the past. Most often, the pain is from someone's childhood or young adult years. Time has moved on, but the healing has not progressed at the same pace. The memories and the impact are difficult to shake. Some folks say that time heals all wounds, but I completely disagree. I've seen too many people carry too many wounds for too long. On the other hand, I've seen other people heal from very deep wounds in a relatively short time. Time does not heal your wounds, but you and God can. When you align your perspective with His perspective on pain, you can experience healing too. The first step to victory through forgiveness is to realize that God always has a purpose for your pain. Therefore, you don't need to carry the burdens of the past. You can let them go. All right. So that is the first day of our forgiveness talk. So I think something that jumped out to me very quickly is the idea that both monks continued walking. One of them was having a horrible time or a disgruntled time or a diseased time and missed every single thing they walked past for those 2 miles.
Right.
He missed any people that they might have walked past, any joys that they might have walked past, any new adventures that they might have walked past, because his mind was literally somewhere else. And his mind never caught up with where he actually was until the other friend pointed out, the other monk pointed out, I let that go and I left it there. The weight of that issue is still back there for me. And so his experience on the walk was completely different. And even though they were walking the exact same road, the exact same path and trail, thinking that they were going on the same experience, they were actually having two completely different experiences.
Yes, the idea of where your mind flows. What is it? Where your mind goes.
Where your energy goes, your
how does it? Your
experience grows.
Yeah, and so you basically focus on what is in your head, and if you are living in the space to where you're remembering the things that are weighing you down, you're less likely to see the glimmers, which are the opposite of triggers around you. The idea of you walking on that path and seeing one guy was able to see life and be surprised and baffled and amazed and caught in the now and living in the experience, moving forward with peace. The other gentleman is less likely to have seen the exact same glimmers around them, and they focus, it's the choice to stay in suffering versus letting things go and living in the moment.
Right. And living somewhere else besides right now. Yeah,
100%.
like you're saying. The other thing I think is interesting is he was the one that volunteered to go first to carry the woman.
Right.
Yet then he saw her as a burden.
Mm-hmm. And
she didn't ask to be carried.
We've done that. I mean, I know a lot of people.
Right.
You volunteer for things that
right.
are setting you up for disgruntled life.
Right. And I think that really tells you about the heart of the monk going in. I volunteered, but I didn't really have a heart of love.
Right. It was obligation.
I felt obligated or nice or expected or whatever the story was. And the other monk, the second monk that was able to do it with love, he carried the weight while it was heavy. And then because it was actual love, he set her down. And left her there instead of taking forward some feeling about her that she had no part in and didn't do anything about.
And both are voluntary acts of service. One is out of obligation, though, and the other one is out of compassion.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
It's one was felt obligated to offer his support to get her across the river, whereas the other person maybe came to it with compassion, and then whenever that they parted ways, the compassion set him up for the life of. There was nothing to forgive.
Right.
It was over.
Right.
It was
right. There was nothing to forgive because no wrong had happened.
And
I voluntarily gave.
Mm-hmm.
You did not take from me.
And in the obligatory sense, it's like I carried you across, and now my back hurts, and you walked away, and you didn't even notice.
Right.
It's
right. Yeah. Well, because it's going into it expecting something in return.
Right.
Expecting gratitude, expecting thanks, expecting a gift, expecting recognition, whatever it is. It's expecting something else versus doing it for the act of doing it. It's kind of like the book we're reading, God's Life for My Will.
Right.
I don't remember the guy's name, but talking
Mike
about
Donahue.
Okay, Mike Donahue, but talking about it just slipped my mind. Oh, the second applause. He was talking about in the music industry, it's very easy to get caught up in the praise of everybody around you and everybody thinking you're wonderful and you must be so connected to God and all these things. And so his mentor had told him the danger is waiting for the second applause. That when you do something, when you write a song, when you help someone across the river, when you give of yourself in any way, recognizing your feeling in the moment. So the first monk didn't necessarily applaud for himself, whereas the second monk said, that felt good. Mm-hmm. I helped someone today. I did what felt right to me, and I feel good about it.
So
and he applauded for himself and completed the cycle and moved on with life. The first monk did the task, did not applaud himself, did not say that was a wonderful thing that I did and I'm very pleased and I'm going to move on. Instead, he was waiting for someone else to applaud for him.
Right.
And so because no one else applauded, now he's
external
disgruntled.
Validation.
Right.
And
now
ego
he's
boost.
Disgruntled. Right. And so it becomes about unforgiveness when in reality it was about doing it with the wrong heart.
Right.
And now there's this feeling of bitterness between him and this other lady, or him and existence and him and his life, simply because he was waiting for somebody else to clap for him.
Because he's offering his gift of strength to be able to, in this case here, assist someone across the river. It's implied that he has strength. It's
right.
implied that this person could benefit from him yielding that strength, lending that strength
Right.
to them. So waiting for them to validate the fact that yes, you really were a strong person who was able to help me out
Right.
is immaterial, but we wait for that.
Right.
And if we don't
Right.
get that, it's
Right. And waiting for a congratulations or a thanks from someone who didn't ask anything of you.
Yeah.
If they saw her by the river and they volunteered to help her across.
And at the end of the day, if you really think back, she knew there was a river between her and there.
Right.
And so if she really wanted to get across, she was prepared to either go back home and not get across her destination
Right.
or roll up her pant legs and do
Right.
it herself.
But the other funny thing to realize is regardless of how either monk felt, the woman went on her
Mhm.
way.
Yeah.
So she didn't have any part in this monk's experience.
Mhm.
She wasn't any actual person involved in the conversation, the experience, or anything like that because he was upset with the idea of not getting his own accolades.
And taking a step back and saying you're part of a greater set of puzzle pieces or chess pieces that are moving around a board. So your part of getting her across that river is allowing her to continue on down the path towards blessings and doing things that are impacting the world at large.
Right.
And so understanding that I played my part
Right.
and yay,
It
move
was
on.
a 10-minute task for me
Right.
that
And
made the possibility
For-
for limitless.
for her to
blessing that occurred.
continue on with her life and interact and send people down paths of blessings beyond anything I could ever imagine. So I don't need praise for that.
Right. So I think just to wrap it up, the idea is forgiveness is really about yourself.
100%.
It isn't about forgiving the lady at the river or forgiving the person in your life. It's really about saying, what was my intention when I did this? What was my motivation when I did this? And then recognizing I forgive myself for doing something when it was not from a place of love.
Right.
From doing something expecting acknowledgement or some type of validation on the other side, or applause or accolade or whatever on the other side.
And
And that's the real forgiveness.
And those things filter into our perception of our experience beyond that. And so, like the guy said, I let her down miles
Like 2
ago.
miles ago. Yeah.
So my experience between now and then has been a completely different one than this
Right.
one of suffering that you've continued to hang on to.
Right, that you chose.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Okay, so that is our PeppStart for today. At the bottom of the sheet, you'll see there's space for notes. Something I do like to do at the end of the session is just write down any ahas I had, anything that felt meaningful to me, or sometimes I use it if my mind, like when we were talking about meditation, my mind just keeps following what's for dinner. I will literally just write what's for dinner in the notes section. So when you're doing this again tomorrow, you can know that that's how I use it, just so that my mind can recognize that I've taken the note. But write down just whatever your heart says, pour it out. It can be just 2 minutes, 3 sentences, whatever. And that is our PeppStart for today. I hope you guys had a wonderful time, and that you start showing up for yourself every day. At the top of the PeppStart, it says, I showed up for myself again today. And that is the goal. As many days as you can, show up for yourself. All right, you got anything else to add?
That's it.
Thank you for joining us. Mwah.